In this episode, we're exploring why saying yes to every client might be the biggest mistake that massage therapists make and the crucial steps you need to take instead. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why certain clients drain you twice as fast as others and what that reveals about your practice. This is the first in a 4-part special series where we're going to explore in great detail why some clients leave you feeling completely drained, and more importantly, what it reveals about the future of your practice and what can you do about it. Welcome to The Conscious Practitioner, the podcast helping massage therapists align with purpose, create deeper client transformation, and evolve your practice even if you feel stuck. I'm your host, Dr. Jess, and each week we address your biggest practice challenges, from boundaries to burnout and everything in between. Together, we uncover the inner blind spots behind these outer struggles that, when mastered, transform you from a skilled practitioner to a truly impactful one. So today, we're diving into part 1 of our series. Now, this series comes from a pattern that I've noticed both in my own practice and with the practitioners I work with. That's the feeling of being completely wiped out after very certain clients, even when the session itself wasn't particularly demanding. Over the next 4 episodes, we're going to unpack not just why this happens, but how to transform your practice so it energizes you rather than depletes you. In today's episode, very specifically, we're going to be talking about the hidden reasons clients drain you twice as fast as others, why common solutions like taking more breaks or adding other techniques aren't solving the problem, and a framework for identifying which clients truly align with your best work. So with that, let's jump in. All right, so imagine this. It's Thursday afternoon, you're halfway through your day, but your energy feels like it's already hit empty. You glance at your schedule, and there it is, that name, that client. You know the session isn't going to be any longer or physically demanding than usual, but just seeing their name fills you with this deep, sinking exhaustion. It's like your body already knows what's coming. And then maybe, just maybe, the guilt kicks in. You tell yourself, I'm a professional. You say, you're here to help everyone. So why do you feel this way? Why do certain clients make you feel so drained to the point where you don't even want to work with them, while others leave you feeling energized and fulfilled? You might start to wonder if it's just you, if it's something wrong with how you are feeling. But it's not just you, and there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. I've talked to so many practitioners who have experienced this exact same thing, those roller coaster days where one client lights you up and the next one completely wipes you out. And for me, the most frustrating part is this. I know you love what you do. You love helping people. So why does it feel like some sessions take way more from you than you have to give? Here's what often happens. We try and fix it with quick solutions. We maybe take more breaks. We space out appointments. Or we even add some new techniques that are supposed to be easier on the body. And these things, they make complete sense. And while these strategies might help a little bit, they don't really get to the heart of the issue. They're like trying to cover a leaky roof with a tarp. It's going to hold for a while, but the problem is still there, waiting. The truth is this. These aren't just surfaced frustrations. They're symptoms of something deeper. Or as we say in traditional Chinese medicine, they're the branches, not the root. And if we want real clarity, the kind that makes your practice feel aligned and, very importantly, sustainable, we've got to dig a bit deeper. And that's what today is all about. So what's missing here? Why does this keep happening? The answer lies in a deeper, often overlooked step in our process, and that's defining your ideal client. Now, many practitioners, they skip this step entirely. Why is that? I feel like it's because there's this fear that being selective will make you seem picky or maybe exclusionary. So instead, some people default to saying yes to everyone who books an appointment. And while this might feel like the right thing to do, and it might make sense in a lot of ways, you kind of end up paying the price in energy, maybe fulfillment, eventually in the sustainability of your practice. So why do so many of us avoid defining our ideal client? Seems pretty simple theoretically. Now, I'm a really big fan of working with coaches. And early in my career, my coach told me to spend some time and define my ideal client avatar. But I didn't. I took the worksheets, I gave it a think, and said, nope, I don't have time for this. So I brushed it off, convincing myself that it wasn't really necessary and I didn't have time. Or one of the things I used for years is, I know who my ideal client is. I don't need to write it down. Here's the thing. Skipping this step, it cost me in ways I didn't really realize at the time. And I know I'm not alone in this one because many practitioners avoid defining their ideal clients because deep-seated fears and misconceptions. There's this fear of being seen as exclusionary, maybe judgmental, and the myth that being a great practitioner, maybe even a successful one, means helping everyone. And then there's the scarcity mindset that whispers there aren't enough clients out there to sustain a selective practice. Let me share a personal story. I used to believe that I genuinely could and should serve everyone. Someone booked an appointment, I saw it as my responsibility to help them. Now, over time, I started to notice a pattern. That's one of the things I do. I notice patterns. Certain clients would leave me feeling totally lit up and fulfilled, while others drained me to the point where I dreaded their next session. The turning point, though, came during a particularly busy week. I looked at my schedule and I realized I was excited about less than half of the names on that list. And for me, that's when I knew something had to change. Now, this wasn't an easy realization. And honestly, the resistance to being so selective, for me, it ran really deep. Now, I knew that I needed to do it, but I kept telling myself that being selective wasn't a great option. Because if I say no to people, I think to myself, what if my practice dries up? What if there's not enough people? I had all these excuses. It's not professional to turn people away. I'll lose money if I'm too picky. The truth is, though, I was scared. I was scared of scarcity. I was scared of being judged. And honestly, I was scared of my reputation taking a hit. My ego really didn't like that. And by that point, I'd built a pretty solid reputation as the guy who could fix challenging cases. But eventually, I hit a point where I couldn't really ignore the emotional or energetic toll anymore. That's when I finally sat down and I asked myself who I truly wanted to work with. When I started defining clients whose values aligned with mine, everything really shifted. My energy improved, my sessions felt more meaningful and more impactful, and the care that I could provide genuinely skyrocketed. Here's why this matters. Misaligned clients don't just drain your energy, they compromise the quality of care that you can provide. And the more aligned you are with your clients, the more sustainable and fulfilling your practice becomes. And ultimately, serving the right clients doesn't just benefit you, it benefits them too. Let me take you into my practice for a moment. Imagine walking into a treatment room at the end of a long day. The air still holds that familiar mix of essential oils and the cleaning spray. The massage table is perfectly made and everything is in its place, but something feels heavy. I remember standing in the exact spot years ago, staring at my schedule, feeling the same heaviness. It was a full book, the kind most practitioners would celebrate, but something wasn't right. Now that day I tried something that I'd never done before. I took a fresh notebook out of the drawer and I drew a line. On one side I wrote energized and on the other I wrote drained. Then, when I went through my entire client list, and I mean it, my entire client list, every single name, sorted them out. What I discovered stopped me in my tracks. The clients who energized me weren't necessarily easier ones. Some indeed had very complex conditions that required intense focus and a lot of work. But there was a pattern. one that would completely change how I approached my practice. Now, this is what I call the alignment effect. When you start paying attention to which clients truly align with your work, not just who you can help, but who you can best help, patterns emerge. These patterns aren't about good or bad clients, they're about resonance, about the kind of work that makes you feel more alive and not depleted. I started tracking these patterns, these types of sessions that left me feeling inspired versus exhausted, the conversations that energized me versus the ones that drained me, and something really fascinating emerged. Now, the fascinating pattern that emerged wasn't about technique or even experience level. It was about alignment and values. The clients who energized me were the ones who viewed massage as part of their broader wellness journey. They came with curiosity, not just seeking quick fixes. They asked questions, engaged in the process. They took an active role in healing. But here's what really surprised me. The clients who drained me, once again, they weren't difficult in any traditional sense. Many were perfectly pleasant. They just wanted something different than what truly lit me up as a practitioner. They saw what I was doing as purely a transactional service. Come in, get a little tune-up, pay, leave. And I was burning myself trying to be everything for everyone. Now, the real breakthrough came when I finally gave myself permission to specialize, to focus on what kind of work really energizes me. And I remember sitting there. I remember the moment I decided to do this. I decided, you know what, I'm jumping in both feet, and I totally rewrote my website copy. I rewrote everything on my bios to clearly describe who I chose to serve. I was terrified. I was terrified about losing my practice. I was terrified about being judged. And I was thinking, would I be seen as elitist or exclusionary or something like that? But what happened next transformed my entire approach to practice. Instead of losing clients, I started to attract more of the right ones. People who resonated with my approach began finding me, and my schedule didn't just fill up. Very importantly, it filled up with clients who energized me. Now, this isn't just my story. I've seen this pattern repeat with countless practitioners who've had the courage to get clear about who they serve best. It's like tuning a radio. When you dial into the right frequency, suddenly everything becomes clear. And that's what I mean about the alignment effect. When you get clear about who you serve best, you create space for magic to happen. Your sessions become more impactful, your energy stays sustainable, and perhaps most importantly, your clients get the exact kind of care they are looking for. But here's the thing. This clarity doesn't come automatically. It requires a bit of inner work, a bit of effort that many of us aren't taught in our training. Work that we'll explore more deeply in our next episode. So let's reframe the challenge. Defining your ideal client isn't about rejection, it's about creating the best outcome for everyone involved. When your clients are aligned with your strengths, your values, your session becomes energizing instead of exhausting. You're able to show up as your best self, and your clients, they can feel it. You feel better as a person, but they feel the energy coming off of you. And because of this, they tend to feel like they're getting cared for in a totally different way. And it tends to be the way that they actually truly need. Here's the takeaway. Clarity attracts better client matches. Intentional boundaries and clear messaging don't just make your life easier, they make your practice more effective. Because when you serve the clients you're best equipped to help, emotionally, energetic, and physically, the ripple effects are profound. More impactful sessions, more satisfaction, and a practice that fuels you instead of burns you out. So as usual, let's get practical here. let's shift our gears and talk about how to actually implement something in your daily life to start making a shift to attracting the right clients. Number 1 is reflect. As they say, γνώθια σε αυτόν. Know thyself. And as I always say, it starts with self-awareness. So step number 1 is to reflect. Take some time and journal about the clients who energize you versus the ones who deplete you. Look for patterns in their personality, their values, their needs. I would also suggest to feel out the similarities. It might be that each person on the list gives you a sense of calm when you're with them, or something like that. Now, number 2 is define. Write down a profile of your ideal client. What traits do they have? What kind of work do they value most? Now, this process is typically called defining your ideal client avatar, and if you've done any coaching at all, you're probably familiar with it. But I want you to get really detailed here. Imagine this is a real person. Really create this character. It does take time. The last time I did this process, it genuinely took about 2 weeks until I eventually had this person in mind. This absolutely perfect person that I would love to spend the rest of my working life working with. And then number 3 is align, which perhaps is the hardest part. We have to make some choices. To start with, choose just one way to reflect this clarity in your practice. And now the reason I say just one is you don't have to change everything all at once. In fact, you should not change everything all at once. Small shifts are much more helpful. Maybe you update your intake process, or maybe you refine your marketing language, or perhaps it's saying no to clients who just don't align with that ideal client profile you wrote out. Now, this is just the beginning of our journey to understand why certain clients drain us and how to create a practice that fuels us instead. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into the inner work of identifying and overcoming some of the unconscious patterns that keep us stuck. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and before we wrap up, let's revisit 3 key insights from the episode. Number 1, not every client is going to be your ideal client, and that's okay. Alignment is the key to a sustainable, energizing, and impactful practice. Number 2 is clarity attracts the right matches. Taking time to identify your ideal client improves not just your energy, but also your practice outcomes. And 3, saying no creates space for the right yes. Serving aligned clients leads to better sessions, deeper satisfaction, and a more fulfilling practice. Now, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd share with a fellow practitioner who might be feeling something similar. Now, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of this series where we tackle into the scarcity mindset and why it keeps us stuck saying yes to misaligned clients. Thank you again for listening to The Conscious Practitioner. Until next time, be well, my friend.